Okay, the first thing I want to show you in decorative stitching is how to stitch satin stitches, and we're going to use this to do an applique. Let's see, actually we're going to use the satin stitch. This is what I wanted to do. Number 12, and then I'm going to minimize this. And number 12 is how you get a satin stitch on this machine. Now I'm going to make the stitch just a little bit shorter because I like my satin stitch to be a little more dense. And then I also want to make it not quite so wide. So in the edit mode, you can make all of those changes. All right, so I'm going to look up here because I took my the foot off that I was using a minute ago. I need to select the 2A foot. So this is the 2A foot. You can see it right here if you're looking at it. And notice on the 2A foot, there's not a gap here for the IDT. So I need to disengage the IDT before I put the foot on. So I'm just going to pull it down and lift up, and it gets itself out of my way. All right, so to put the 2A foot on, I'm just going to line it up underneath the ankle, lower the ankle a little bit. There we go. Now I got it on. So you can adjust. It's nice when you push the, when you lower the foot, use this button. The first time it lowers it all the way down. If you press it again, it lifts it up just slightly so that you can adjust. So that's what I was doing there. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to lower the foot, and I want to raise it up slightly like I was describing so that I can line the edge of my applique up with the center line of the foot. So I'm going to start right there, lower my foot down. I still have needle down activated, and I do have some stabilizer under this. The other thing I would be doing if I were working on a project was I would have fusible web on the back of this applique, and I would have fused it down so it wouldn't slip around on me. The other thing I want to show you on the screen, next to the foot recommendation, it also recommends when you might want to use stabilizer, and that's what that rectangular box means. Okay, so back to stitching. I'm all set up. I have my foot set up where I want it to be, and I'm just going to press the start-stop button. I'm going to stop when I get closer to the edge and use my foot control, because what I want to do is line this next coming up edge. I want it to line up with this line on the side of the foot, the red line, before I turn, and I want to stop with my needle down and to the right. So I just had it, I think I went just a little bit past. Now if I tap, I'm just tapping my foot control to get it to go one step at a time, or one stitch at a time. So there we go. And now, because I have needle down activated, it slightly lifts the foot up for me. I can rotate it, and it looks like I've got it just where I want it. So to turn my corner and make a nice neat corner, now I can just go ahead and start stitching. And I'm gonna actually change to another stitch. So I'm gonna show you, I wanna show you that you can use lots of different stitches for applique. We're going to go to the satin stitches and stitch number 4.2, and I'm going to choose this number 6, which is the satin ball. And I tend to like my satin again a little bit denser, so I'm going to shorten the stitch length just a little bit to get that more the way I like it, and I can touch that again to make the stitch menu go away. And now I'm going to start stitching that satin ball. I want to show you one other thing. When you turn the corner, if you're using a decorative stitch, it's really good to use the stitch restart. I'm getting off just a little bit. So now I'm going to just use my foot control again to line up the edge of my fabric with the edge of that applique, with the red line on the foot, and stop with my needle down and to the right. Now I'm going to turn my fabric, and the stitch restart button is this button right here on the machine. I'm going to touch that, and then when you look at the screen you can see that the little plus is showing right at the beginning of the stitch. Okay, so that now when I start sewing, it's going to start that stitch in the beginning. I like to use this because I think it makes the corners look a little bit cleaner. And I'm just going to go ahead and stop right there and cut with my cutter. And that's what that corner looks like. It just, instead of having two incomplete stitches, I have one complete stitch on top of the other, which I think looks a little nicer. And then there's my nice clean corner. One more thing I want to show you here before we move on. This stitch is not 9 millimeters wide, or actually it is. So I'm going to make it a little bit narrower. And now if I want to, I can actually, because it's smaller than 9 millimeters, I can adjust the stitch position. So to do that, the stitch width and the needle position share the same control here. So if I just touch the middle there of the stitch, now I have the ability to move the stitch position, needle position. So let me just kind of show you what we did the first time with the straight stitch. So I'm going to start right here and stitch for a little bit. And I'm going to actually raise the needle for this, and I'm going to move my stitch position, and it won't let me go any further than is safe to go. And I'm going to go ahead and stitch a little bit more. And stop. And there you can see I was able to move that. This is where I moved that stitch over a little bit. So I did it right in the middle of the stitch. I thought, so it's a little bit not as clear as it would be if I'd gotten it a couple stitches sooner, but I was able to move that stitch over 1.5